Alright, and welcome back to the Intro to Substrate section. Now, for the first few videos, I'm going to just be using the Notion template here to go through some of the material. However, don't worry, we'll be in the terminal and in the IDE as soon as possible, and we'll actually be developing in real time, and I'll be showing you the exact code you need to write to make your blockchain and blockchain module run and do its thing. But first, and it's very important to preface, what exactly is Substrate and exactly what is blockchain, because the definitions vary and it's super important to really know what you're getting yourself into when learning this new technology. So, as we said before, and I went ahead and just made this bigger here, as we said before, you should have some familiarity with coding or software development. You should be able to use an IDE or text editor or code editor of some kind. You should be comfortable being in the terminal for a little bit. And of course, have that installed in either Linux, macOS, or Windows. So let's kind of dive into what is blockchain, and we'll keep this super brief. Blockchain at its very core and what it does, it keeps a linked collection of set records, and these records are verified by a collection of nodes. So within a blockchain versus a regular backend, you may have one central backend server verifying information coming in. However, a blockchain is different. A blockchain relies on a network of different servers, or nodes as they're called. And these nodes collectively come to consensus on what data is correct and what data is not correct. And these rules are agreed upon within the network and within the consensus mechanism. And the consensus mechanism is pretty self-explanatory. It involves either a bunch of different algorithms, and you can do your own research on that on your own. Blockchains are state management machines, and we change that state by submitting transactions. Each time we submit a new transaction, the network checks it, and it decides whether to include it or not. In our case, our transactions are not even going to be monetary in the slightest. We're actually going to use the same concepts of verifying monetary data or balances or whatever you have it, and instead apply those same concepts to basically logging information and metadata about a user. You can think of this as a basis for a social media, so like a user profile or an about me section, stuff like that. So to sum it up, a blockchain is a technology or collection of nodes that keeps track of the state of a chain of information that's always changing, and it keeps track of who, when, and whether it was valid or not, whenever a new piece of information is uploaded to it. There's obviously a lot more, but to keep it brief, we'll move on from there. So if we have blockchain, then what is Substrate? Well, developing on blockchain is pretty difficult, and a lot of people looking to move from Web 2 to Web 3 find this the hardest part, which is how do I start developing on blockchain? There's a bunch of different blockchains with different protocols and different ways of developing a Web 3 application. Even then, the concept of Web 3 changes a lot, or the concept of blockchain changes a ton. So what Substrate does is it allows us to it gives us the ability to build our own blockchain from scratch. It's a framework for building blockchains. So it takes care of all the hard parts so we can focus on building the fun part, which are the applications. So let's say we want to build a social media based blockchain that keeps track of users and posts and things like that. Normally it would be expensive and costly to run it on something like Ethereum, and it would be quite a development process. However, with Substrate, we can actually create our own custom blockchain to handle all of that logic for us, and it will be relatively painless to implement that functionality if we wish to do so. Substrate chains are also interoperable. They are quite good at communicating with other blockchains if need be. And this is still in pretty active development. However, you can do things like talk to other Substrate chains, or in the future, even communicate with chains like Ethereum, which I believe has even happened before. So if you need to talk to an Ethereum smart contract from your Substrate chain, then that's entirely possible. But yeah, all you need to know is that Substrate is essentially the Angular or React for JavaScript. It provides a bunch of tools just like Angular or React, and instead of building web applications, we're building blockchains.